Professor, if you had to guess either way, do you now believe that it is more likely than not that we are alone in the Milky Way as a civilization of our level of intelligence or higher?
I think it quite likely that we are the only civilization within several hundred light years. Otherwise, we would have heard radio waves.
When you first say water to people, they think, oh, it's just, the stuff I drink every day and I bathe in it. I mean, what could be so special? Let's take, for example, an experiment that was done, and this is where I get really excited because it also relates to the search for communication with other star systems.
Okay.
You see in this experiment done, and this is in Water, the Great Mystery, where they take a pitcher of water, and they separate the pitcher of water into two pitchers of water, and they separate both pitchers at a great distance. And when you expose information to one pitcher of water, the other at a distance restructures itself according to that information instantly, using atomic clocks.
That's incredible.
Instantly. And what amazes me about that is over and over and over again, no matter how far you go back, and going back, actually, there's a Russian scientist named Alexander Zhezhevsky, whom in the 1930s noticed that bacteria in water would constantly become agitated during the exact moment of solar flares. And he noticed this over and over and over again. Whenever there was a solar flare, the activation of the bacteria going crazy happened before the solar radiation hit the Earth. In fact, it takes 8.3 minutes for solar radiation to travel from the sun's 93 million miles from Earth to get here. Right. So the bacteria knew it instantly. Why? Why did the bacteria in the water know? Well, the interesting thing is our sun is 93% hydrogen, and there's oxygen in the sun. And that means that these two bodies of water at a distance are actually talking to each other instantaneously. And the bacteria in the water gets activated because the water is receiving this information. Now, when we consider the vast distances, for example, the distance between our Milky Way galaxy and the Andromeda galaxy, which is 2.2 million light years away, if you were communicating using radio waves with Andromeda, if we could, it would take over 2.2 million years to get there. But yet, the hydrogen in the stars in the Andromeda galaxy and the hydrogen in our stars and the spiraling arms of the Milky Way galaxy and the water in our own bodies can communicate instantaneously over these.
See, you're onto something, David.
You see, there's something going on here.
Something about these people who actually know the truth. The rest of us here, we're sitting around in cyberspace and on the internet speculating about whether any of this stuff is real, and yet here you have people that are walking up to a crashed disk and looking into the eyes of a wounded or dying alien. I mean, you can't even imagine what that's actually like if you're actually there. There's no more doubt in your mind at that point that we're not alone in the cosmos. And in the course of Sergeant Clifford Stone's work, he was given briefing documents which gave very precise descriptions of all 57 varieties of ET, so that if he came up to a crashed extraterrestrial wreckage, that he would know who he was dealing with when he got there and what kind of characteristics they had.
When I got out in 1989, we had cataloged 57 different species. You have individuals that look very much like you and myself that could walk among us and you wouldn't even notice the difference, except for some of the things that they might be able to go ahead, even in a dark room, and touch an object and go ahead and identify what color that object might be. They would have a heightened sense of smell, sight, hearing. The situation is that you have various types of what we normally call grays. We didn't call them grays in the military, but you had at least 3 types of the grays. You had some that were much taller than we were. The unique thing that I'd like to point out for the most part is that the entities that we did catalog were in fact humanoid, and that creates a question that yet has to be answered by science.
It seems that this particular galaxy has designed human beings exclusively to evolve within it. And to get back to your original question, yes, most of these people have essentially a very similar set of beliefs, because apparently as you progress farther along in human evolution, the nature of the universe is no longer veiled. In fact, we already have enough scientific information now to essentially transcend the boundaries of religion and move into a unified cosmic conception where we can all agree on some basic principles, which would include the idea that the fundamental energy that makes all matter as we know it is conscious and has an awareness that is essentially unified. This seems to be what all of these various beings understand.
Now, what does it mean if scientists can prove that this little element that is virtually existent everywhere in the universe can communicate with different bodies of distant hydrogen instantaneously, and that it has consciousness, and that the consciousness of water is kind of like Professor Rustum Roy at Penn State calls an alphabet. You can give it new words and new sentences, and therefore it structures itself differently according to the information you give it. And now when you kind of add all the pieces together and you realize that no super-intelligent civilization would be broadcasting anything in the radio spectrum because it travels at the speed of light and it's much too slow, and you're starting to see this evidence of action at a distance through hydrogen aqueous systems like the sun and bodies of water and telepathy, the evidence is overwhelming. So we see that, this example that Masaru Emoto really started, the idea of cryogenically flash freezing water after it's been exposed to emotion, music, thoughts, and different intentions. And we see, for all the people who know Masaru Emoto, he's pretty much a legend now. You see that this idea that cryogenically, instantaneously freezing water, we're freezing the structure of the information inside of water, and it gives us different architectures. And when we look at those architectures, in a way, they're kind of like a language. When you see flash frozen water crystals exposed to Beethoven, you see this beautiful symmetry. If you say the words, "I hate you," to the water, you see this chaos. If you say Hitler, you see this crazy mess. If you say thank you, you see again these amazing architectures. One thing is certain, is that there are certain harmonics, actual harmonies, and you go all the way back to Pythagoras and the music of the spheres, his experience of hearing the sound of the sun, which is where we're headed here soon. And actually the sounds of all the planets are producing a kind of harmonic music.